Now, say made in India to most of us who lived through the 90s, and the first thing that comes to mind would be Alisha Chenoy crooning about how the Indian man is the best in the world. But does made in India stand for best in class for an actual product or category? How can Indian companies leverage the Made in India label and create a perception that the country has moved beyond being a land of exotica, spices and call centers to a land that actually creates cutting-edge products? Tara Kapoor gets you those answers.
Made in USA. Made in USA.
Made in Italy. Made in Italy.
Made in Japan.
Made in China. Made in China.
We're mad about our machines.
In a world where Made in China stands for the most affordable, Made in Japan represents the best quality, Made in Italy is equated with luxury, Made in Germany is synonymous with quality engineering, and Made in the United States of America stands for durability. Where does Made in India stand? Does the Made in India label stand for best in class for any category in the world of brands?
Currently, Made in India doesn't really stand for anything.
From a land of mystique, you call it, from a land of faraway exotica, we have moved on to a land of exciting possibilities.
In a developed market, the perception could be price point, basically. It is a low price point product.
Made in India, unfortunately, is a negative terminology in most overseas markets.
Many might question the relevance of the product's origin. After all, a Nike shoe made anywhere in the world is still a Nike shoe. But in today's consumerist world, the Made in XYZ tag holds as much value as your nationality or passport.
Bring home the real Brazilian coffee experience with Brew Exotica.
Case in point would be Apple's iPod. Steve Jobs' iconic product is, believe it or not, manufactured in China. But the company goes out of its way to print a designed in California label on all their products instead of a made in China one. And they aren't the only ones. Many other brands have started printing made in PRC for the People's Republic of China, hoping consumers get fooled into believing the product has an alternate origin.
For certain products, the country of origin is very important. See, if I buy a cosmetics brand, and if it says made in France, I would immediately feel that it must be a good product. So those things, I think there's a country advantage, and I think the country origin becomes important. For India, it is a challenge. It is some way to go before we're going to get known for a certain kind of product.
The other day, I was going to buy a Nokia phone, and my 14-year-old son looked at me and said that, Appa, when you go to buy that phone, when you go to the shop, ensure that you open the phone, and inside the phone, somewhere is going to be written either made in China or made in Finland. So he says, buy the made in Finland one. At the end of the day, I think there's a great degree of importance. Quality is an associate of origin.
According to a study by JWT, the top 6 phrases that American and British adults associate with Chinese brands are the following: mass-produced, cheap, poor safety standards, poorly made, unreliable, and ordinary. Word associations that have set up a great wall of China-sized roadblock when these companies attempt to move up the value chain. Given that many Indian companies are already competing in the price game, they need to be careful and prevent similar expressions from getting etched in consumers' minds when they see the Made in India tag.
We are still leveraging the cost arbitrage. We haven't moved up the value chain. If you look at the other brands, what are the signals we are giving the world? We are giving Nano, it's the cheapest car in the world. We've got Scorpio SUV, which is again very cheap. If you look at the Taj hotels, around the world they've been buying property, and it's all middle-level hotel pricing. So I think we've been giving the world the message that we are affordable quality. But we know that affordable quality cannot last that long.
If you look at 30 years back, Korea was the equivalent of China in terms of coming up with low-cost cars, low-cost products. Samsung wasn't acknowledged as a brand at all. In less than 10 years' time, what Samsung has done in order to emerge as a global brand is through the investment that they have made in R&D, and the investments that they have made in creating the brand. And I think that's a different model that Samsung has followed, let's say compared to a Lenovo, which actually went in for an acquisition.
Developing a culture of innovation remains a major challenge for many Indian companies. In fact, homegrown companies in India spend less on R&D and technology when compared to most emerging markets. A majority of successful Chinese multinationals, like Huawei for example, spend huge sums of money on R&D. This Chinese giant now plans to boost R&D spends to $4.5 billion this year as it seeks to move more deeply into the mobile device and enterprise network markets. And in order to strengthen this, almost half of Huawei's employee base is now engaged in R&D.
As on today, Indian companies will go a long way to really get a mindset of proper investment in, let's take in FMCG business, again let's take in skincare or beauty, etc. I would say a company in that space should invest at least 3% at least in R&D investment to the sales. But if you ask me what are we doing, it's not more than 1%.
Most of the countries in the world, big MNCs in the world, they're setting up the R&D centers, innovation centers in our country. And as I earlier said, that our talent pool is recognized world over. But the issue is that we have not faced that kind of competition. And to develop product, you have to spend upfront dollars. So you will see a lot of innovations coming in for our country now into the business models. But when you look at products, it is some way to go.
One of the ways in which Indian companies have attempted to make a foray onto the global stage has been through acquisitions. But even those of the few who have dared to venture into this territory have not been able to achieve much. A prime example of this would be Tata acquiring Tetley Tea in the UK. Instead of establishing the Tata name as a global brand by rebranding Tetley as Tata Tetley, demonstrating that an Indian company can produce tea that suits the taste palette in the UK, they decided to keep the product as is, hiding the Indian brand name. Another problematic route in terms of acquisition is the fact that most Indian brands have acquired companies that exist in other emerging and developing markets like Latin America, Africa and Southeast Asia, instead of taking big Western markets head-on. In fact, the success rates of acquisitions in India is a meager 1.4% in comparison to China's 6.2%.
There's a lack of confidence in doing that, in taking an Indian name and planting it onto an overseas company which you've just bought over. So if you take Jaguar Land Rover, if you take JLR, and would you put Tata brand significantly there, or would you look at any other acquisition? I think most companies are very careful. Every group is very careful.
The place where India Inc. has not done a good job of marketing itself and marketing its products is to not really invest behind it. I think what has happened in the case of most foreign markets is either we've gone down the acquisition route or we have gone as the OEM where we are producing under somebody else's brand. No Indian company has really tried to establish an Indian brand by itself.
Just like the lack of spends in R&D, Indian companies don't have the risk appetite to spend more on marketing globally. Instead, they're currently happy to expand in less developed markets and launch products that are considered the cheaper alternative to their global counterparts. A route that can send us down the Made in China path and spell disaster for Made in India's brand value.